Hello, viewers, and welcome everyone joining us on Never on the Back Foot. What a massive win for Team India, and now they're undefeated in home tests since 1995, a remarkable feat in itself. In today's review live show, we will discuss day three of India versus England, the one-off test match, and all the major talking points. Joining us for discussion is, of course, Julie, who has been quite lively through our conversations through this one-off test in our previous streams as well. So, welcome to you, Julie. Now, looking at this match, right, India has annihilated England, to set a new record, right? One of the biggest wins by run margins in the history of women's tests. Now, looking at this match, India, of course, batted first. They made 428 after, what was a good toss win. And then you had Deepti Sharma take that 5-4 and dismiss England for 136. Although we didn't, enforce that follow on, we declared our second innings at 186 and setting England a massive total of 478 to win. So this time it was, of course, we had the Indian pacers, who came into the party. You had Pooja Vastrikar taking 3 wickets before Deepti Sharma, changed the entire trajectory of the game. And that's how England was bowled out for 131. So, Julie, to just kickstart our discussion, now this was, of course, India's first Test win at home in England, against England in 6 attempts, right? And this just wrapped up in like seven sessions. So, it seems like your prediction came true here.
Thanks, Neha. I think my prediction, of course, your prediction also, especially after how we performed on day two. I think, as we discussed yesterday, also, the match was won on day two itself. I feel when you bowl out a strong batting lineup like England in a jiffy, we can say, I think it was just 35 odd overs, and to bowl them out in such a hurry, that was commendable from the Indian bowlers. And I think we just picked up from where we left yesterday. We batted, and as we were discussing that when will we declare the innings, will it be after Harmanpreet's 50 or what will we wait for? But I think it was quite interesting because yesterday at the end of the day's play, India did not give any intimations that they are going to declare the innings. I think today morning they must have told, of course, before walking out to bat, that we would declare the innings, and England had to start the proceedings. So I feel it plays a very important role because if India would have declared the innings overnight yesterday, England would have gotten time to think about their approach and how their batting is going to be. But I think India keeping that thing very undecided till the very last moment, and only at the 11th hour England came to know, because I think overnight England might have made plans of how to bundle out India, but suddenly you wake up and you have to bat on that rank turners. I think that played a crucial role. And I think kudos to the Indian women's cricket team. And as you rightly pointed out, that our first win on the home soil against England. But to mind you, the head to head statistics also, if you look at India and England, we have played now 12 tests, and three have been won by India and just one solitary win for England. So that itself shows, I think, dominance of Indian women's cricket team over England in the test format. And I like the word annihilated that you used, because we often don't hear that word when you see India England playing in the T20 format or in one days, but I think in test we completely annihilated them.
Certainly, and you could see how social media was buzzing with a win of this nature. And even carrying on from our discussion yesterday and the pointer you brought in earlier, now India did not bat more. They declared their overnight score of 188 for 6. So, do you think this was actually a brave choice? And somewhere there's this urgency, that hey, let's just declare, let's put England to bat and get them out as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I think, and yesterday, as we were discussing, I think one of the purposes of not enforcing the follow on was to give their batters, like give Indian batters, some practice before we head into the Australia test, which is just 5 days away, because we play Australia at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai from 21st of December to 24th. So, probably Harmanpreet Kaur and also the support staff in the Indian team, they would want their batters to get some game time before the Australia test, because we batted just once in this test match against England, though it was an exceptional batting performance. But probably they wanted to give somebody like at the likes of, I think, Harmanpreet Kaur also some more game time. Smriti Mandhana, Shefali Verma also. So I think that was a interesting call, brave call. And I think we had already pocketed the series, I think, on day two. Not the series, I beg your pardon, it was a one off test. But yeah, we had already pocketed it. So I think overall, exceptional performance. The batters did their job, the bowlers complimented them. And I think to win a test match, bowlers play a crucial role, because you have to bowl out the team twice if you want to win the test match. Otherwise, the matches usually end up in a draw. But picking up 20 wickets is extremely difficult. And I think the Indian bowlers, they were up to the task, led by Deepti Sharma, I would say, the senior pro, we can call her because she has already played 3 test matches now. And Smriti Mandana is the senior most with 5 test matches. So I think she did her job well today.
Definitely, and we will rave about Deepti Sharma a little later on in our discussion. Now, I've been looking at what Harmanpreet Kaur said. She said that she'd get a lot more opportunities to ring in her half century and that century in Test cricket. So, do you think it was benevolent of the skipper to prioritize the team and the performance and actually get to the task at hand? That is to skittle England in the manner they did.
I think so. And Harmanpreet Kaur, I think she always wears her heart on her sleeve, and she is not. I don't think she has any second thoughts when she has to express herself. She's quite open about it. She's quite straightforward and explicit about what she feels. And I think in the post-match presentation also she spoke, as you rightly said, Neha, that probably half century will of course come for her in the Test format. She has had no half centuries so far, but I think it will come, and personal milestones are not important for these players. When you're playing at the international level, team's success is what that matters. And I think as a captain, Harmanpreet will be very happy that she has secured that test win, because in the T20s, if you look, we lost the T20I series 1-2. So it was quite not a kind of a revenge, but yeah, we took a good revenge, we would say, against England, and we won the one-off test. So kudos to the Indian team.
Definitely, I think positives because Harmanpreet Kaur can add another feather to her already illustrious cap, and ending the series on a high note, like winning this one-off test will do India a world of good. Now, also looking at England, right? They obviously had a horrid time with the bat for the second time, getting skittled for 131. So again, what do you think went wrong? They were not able to apply themselves, and I think even this stat has a story to tell in itself, right? 378 balls across 2 innings, which is like by far the fewest by a team in women's test. So somewhere they were not able to acclimatize themselves to the conditions, and having more practice matches would have helped them, perhaps.
Probably practice match, I think, would have helped them. And I think Tammy Beaumont also was asked during one of the pre-match press conferences, which happened a couple of days prior to the test match. That is on 12th of December, she addressed media. And I think one of the journalists asked Tammy Beaumont that, would you have liked to have a practice match? And of course, the answer from Tammy Beaumont was a big yes. But again, if you see the scheduling of these matches, I don't think they have the time to slot in a practice match, because the T20I series was done. And in a few days' time, I think there was a gap of 4 days, I believe. The T20I series got over on 10th of December, and 14th, they were playing the test match. Despite the fact that the test team was also with the England team when they were practicing for T20I, but playing a match is a complete different scenario. But having a practice game would have helped. Probably they could have thought of something like how India A and England A played the T20 series, probably something like the England test team. And of course, including some of the T20 players could have played against a state team of India, probably a Mumbai team could have played against them in a kind of a practice match. That could have helped, but this was not the case. They were completely, I think, alien to the conditions, I would say, in India. And also, I feel the fact that since women cricketers do not play much of test cricket, when you are batting, you are not used to having those close in fielders. And when they tend to get in your sight of vision, when you are facing the ball, it gets very pressurizing for the players as well. Despite the fact that England do play more test cricket if then you compare it to India, but still when you have those close in fielders and when you have those attacking field positions set, and when the bowlers are constantly trying to hit the same line and length, it gets very difficult for any batters. And I think that is what we saw today when the likes of Deepti Sharma was bowling. She was hitting those line and length consistently, not giving the England batters any room to score runs. So I think they were completely caught in Deepti's trap. And of course, Pooja Vastrakar with her 3 wickets, she was incredible today.
Definitely. In fact, my next point was going to be about Pooja Vastrakar because I think she formed a really solid duo with Renuka Singh Thakur, and they were just able to extract so much from the surface, right? Because half of them, up like the openers and the middle order, they were able to dismiss. But how impressed have you been with this duo? And I mean, this is a very small sample size to make assumptions of, but looking good in their like primitive test career so far.
Absolutely, and I think you're right, Neha. This is a quite a small sample size. They have not played much of Test cricket. Renuka Singh Thakur, of course, playing her debut Test match, but she was quite at ease. I felt her in swingers were amazing. But today I liked the delivery when she got out Sophia Dunkley, I believe. So the ball, it seemed to come in, but slightly, a very slight outswinger to take the off stump of Sophia Dunkley. So that was exceptional. And if you would have seen the replay, or if you would have seen that moment in slow motion, you would have seen that Sophia Dunkley was playing for the in swinger because she had played Renuka Singh Thakur in the T20Is, also in the first innings of the Test match when England was batting. But she was expecting that ball to come in, but that slight, notorious movement, I would say, by the ball, and that outswinger clean bowled Sophia Dunkley. So Renuka Singh Thakur exceptional again, but Pooja Vastrakar in this innings, she was phenomenal. I felt getting out Nat Siver on the first ball. I think that was a big breakthrough for India because in the previous innings we had seen Nat Siver Brunt scoring a wonderful 59, and again the shoulder. I think probably all the batting responsibility of England was shouldered by Nat Siver in the previous innings, and similar kind of thing was expected from her. But I think Nat did not have a day today. Not a great ball, I would say, from Pooja Vasrakar, but I think she was in that particular momentum and she got the better of Nat Siver.
Yeah, because the pressure was continuously on England. At one point, I think the scorecard was like 83 for 7. I was like, this is done and dusted. There's no way they're making a comeback, chasing those 300 odd runs as well. And I think one of the, primary, people who ensured this collapse happened has to be Deepti Sharma, right? Now, she got into the act. She dismissed like Danny Wyatt, Amy Jones, Kate Cross, Lauren Filer. Brilliant stuff. And that's how, she even brought in her 5 wicket haul. So now, if you look at her performance in this match, she raked up 67 runs, scalped 9 wickets, and even the coach of the team called her Ben Stokes, for the kind of contribution she's had. So Deepti Sharma seeming to get everything right in this format.
Absolutely. I think whatever she touched turned into gold in this test match against England. Deepti Sharma first with the bat, as you rightly said. Though she rode her luck, I think when she was dropped on 62, she did not make much after that. She was out on 67, but she, of course, surpassed her best test score of 66 in this test match. So, again, credit to her. And then picking up 5 wickets and then following up with a 4 for. That was incredible from Deepti Sharma. And as we spoke yesterday as well, that she was not brought in very early into the attack. We saw Sneh Rana opening the bowling from the other end with Renuka Singh Thakur, again an off spinner. Then we had Rajeshwari Gayakwad, the left arm spinner, also coming into the attack. But then the off spinning Deepti Sharma, she was, I think, held back by Harmanpreet Kaur, and probably the support staff also decided to hold her back. But when she was brought in, she just hit the right straps from the word go. And I think she was incredible, 9 wickets in this test match. And I think just wanted to share here, Neha, that in 2014, when India played against South Africa, in India, I think it was in Mysore, that test match, Harmanpreet Kaur had similar kind of figures, not in terms of runs, but in terms of wickets. She had 5 and 4 wickets. Again, an off spinner back then, and Deepti Sharma doing it as an off spinner. So I think some coincidences, and I think such success should encourage BCCI to host more and more home test matches because our girls are doing really well. They have always stood up to the expectations, the huge expectations from a billion people. And I think probably playing this best brand of cricket, they have already marketed their game. And I think the BCCI, it is high time. I think we have more and more home test matches.
Completely agreed with that point. And talking more about Deepti Sharma, just look at this stat on our screen right now. When you look at the time period that has passed since the ODI World Cup in 2022, India has played 53 matches, and the only player who has featured in all of these has to be Deepti Sharma. So now we see her as this multi-dimensional player who can actually feature across all formats. So do you see her as a prospect even going ahead and just getting better with time?
Absolutely. I think there's no second thoughts about it. That Deepti Sharma has been a vital cog in this Indian wheel. If you look at with the bat, she can come in as a floater. In this test match, we saw she came 5 down. But of course, she can bat up the order as well if required. And also, she can come little bit down the order also, 6 down or 7 down. So she's a perfect floater also that the Indian team has. And of course, in the ODIs, we have seen her opening the batting way back when Poonam Raut used to play. I think it was around 2016 and 17. So she can do that as well. And with the ball, we know what an incredible talent she is. A great off spinner. She's very disciplined with her line and length, and she, I think, likes to keep it very simple. She knows where to pitch and she knows how much turn she can get from the pitch. And I think she's a very street smart cricketer as well. She can read the conditions quickly and then acclimatize herself and get the better out of the pitch. Besides, she's a wonderful fielder, I feel. So I think the three-dimensional cricketers that we talk about in the world of cricket, I think Deepti Sharma is one such player. And I think there's no doubt about this statistic that you have seen here, because fortunately she has had no fitness issues also. Despite being an all-rounder, we tend to see many fitness issues from players, but I think she has been able to take care of her body very properly. And that is why probably this is the reason for her longevity and the consistency in this game.
Exactly, and here's hoping she soars more and achieves a lot more in her career. With age on her side, I think we're going to see a lot more of her, which is quite exciting. And looking at how the match unfolded, we had Rajeshwari Gayakwad, who delivered that final blow, and the match was done and dusted. Then, when you look at Rajeshwari Gayakwad and the kind of player she had a very quiet test match, right? So, do you think these are like concerning signs, or are we like reading into it too soon?
No, I think bowlers also, they tend to bowl in partnerships, and I think if you're not getting wickets, so you have to see that if Rajeshwari was the one who was putting on additional pressure on England, which was helping Deepti Sharma or Pooja Vastrakar also for that matter. So I think the Indian team won't be concerned with Rajeshwari's numbers, because even they know that not all the bowlers will get a four or a fiver. It has to be one of the bowlers who will get a fiver or a four in any test match. So I think Rajeshwari did a good job of putting pressure on the England batters, and always having a left arm spin is very important in any team. Given the fact that in your opposition, if there are all the right-handed batters, and if you see the England lineup, I don't think there was a single left-handed batter in their batting order. At least if you start from top to bottom, I don't think there were any lefties. So always having a left arm spinner who will take the ball away from you is a very potent weapon to have in your armory. And I think Rajeshwari Gaikwad is safe and secure. And also, not to forget the fact that she had a good domestic season also. Playing for the Railways, she was pretty good in the T20s and also in the one days. So confidence is there with her, and she's a senior player now in this team, having played many matches for India at the international level. So I think not a concern at all for India in the test matches, and I don't think there will be any hiccups of selecting her in the test match against Australia as well.
Definitely, I'm very excited to see her again because she's that senior player who brings in a lot of experience with her and can be brilliant to bowl with as well. And the other major talking point was how Shuba Satish, was injured, as you rightly pointed out, the ring finger injury that happened. She didn't come out to bat or field. Now, I think it's going to be a test against time, to get fit for that Australia test. So again, is this a point of concern for India because she's going to be that crucial cog in the batting lineup? So, who do you think India could replace her with in case she can't make it to that
Yeah,
playing
I
11?
think I think so. First of all, fingers crossed. Let us hope that Shubha Satish gets fit in time, because as a player, I think it will be very difficult also for her that after such a wonderful debut, a memorable debut, we can say, against England, scoring a half century and batting with that kind of confidence, coming at number three in this strong Indian batting lineup. So that was like a dream come true for this Karnataka girl, and I think she would definitely be praying to God that make her fit so that she's fit for the Australia test. But God forbid if she is not fit, and if India do not want to risk her, probably we have a couple of options. I think we have Harleen Deol, who can come into the playing 11, or probably get a Richa Ghosh. But I'm not sure if Richa Ghosh, if she comes into the playing 11, whether she'll be coming in as a specialist batter or will she be playing as a wicketkeeper batter. Because if you ask me personally, Neha, I feel Richa Ghosh can come in as a specialist batter, but as a wicketkeeper in a test match when you have to play for 4 days, I'm not quite sure if Richa Ghosh will be able to keep wickets. And Yastika is doing a good job behind the stumps. So playing Richa as a specialist batter could be an option, or you can get Harleen Deol, who has the experience of playing top of the order as well. So if you want somebody to come in at three, probably Harleen Deol could be the player, so that rest of the batting order is not disturbed. You get Jemima at four, Herman at five, so that is set. But if you have somebody like a Richa coming in, she can bat at five or six. So again, then you will be disturbing Herman or Yastika in that batting order, and somebody will have to come in at three. So it will have to be Jemima only. So I think again you are disturbing that batting order. So I think quite interesting for the Indian team to think about it. But again, they'll hope that Shubha Satish is fit and fresh for the Australian test.
But I think one of the major positives that I see here is the fact that at least we have a problem of abundance, right? So in case we have one player who can't make it, you still have alternatives in that setup, which really shows we are headed in the right direction. And I don't think it's a major matter of concern because Harmanpreet Kaur knows how to marshal her troops as we saw in this test match. So how would you assess her captaincy? And I think a large credit does go to how she ensured, certain strategies were put in place and how everything played out, right?
Yeah, I think Harmanpreet, she did a phenomenal job, I think I would say, because again, going back to the T20I series, we were under tremendous pressure. We lost it by 1-2 margin. And for any captain, when you start the series with a loss, when in a loss to T20Is, it is always for them a lot of pressure to get back to their group in the test cricket as well. So I think a lot of regrouping must have happened between the third T20I and when the first ball of the test match was being bowled. So Harmanpreet must have had few team meetings with the team. She must have expressed herself what she expects out of them going into the test match, and I think she led from the front also. I feel with the bat and her bowling changes also. If we see, they were very good. Again, Renuka Singh Thakur opening the bowling with Sneh Rana from the other, and I think again that was a brave call. Despite having Pooja Vastrakar, she opted to have a speedster in Renuka from one end and a spinner in Sneh Rana from the other end. So overall, I feel the captainship was good. The field placements, if you see, we were constantly on the attack. For most part of the innings, you always had the short leg and the silly point in place. You also had the first slip, leg slip also in position. So she was in no mood to let loose. She just wanted to, squeeze out England. And I think she completely dominated. So that is what we love to see from Harmanpreet, who herself is a very attacking character on the field.
Definitely, and all positive signs because leading India across formats can be challenging, but she seems to be executing this to perfection. And although we've spoken about so many positives, and even I think after every session, the pie chart would show how India has won the session and we dominated the test match. But are there any other major takeaways or learnings from this test that we can perhaps look into heading into a tougher opposition like Australia?
So I think probably one of the learning lessons I feel on a lighter note though could be Harmanpreet changing her bat. I think probably I think the edges of the bat at the bottom are pretty sharp. That's why the bat is getting jammed just outside of the crease. So probably a round-edged bat could do wonders, and probably just be more careful when you are trying to at least I think steal a single, or if you think you are going to make it but you want to return back to the crease, so just be a little more careful. But yeah, that's on a lighter note. But apart from that, I feel overall learning lessons. I think that is a very interesting question because after such an emphatic win, you can't actually point out that what went wrong in this team. But again, as you mentioned about Rajeshwari Gayakwad, probably she would definitely look to get some more wickets, probably try and bowl some attacking balls. I think the fact that she was not getting wickets is probably she could have been little defensive. She was just trying to, not allow the batters to score freely, or she was more concentrating on the dot balls. But if she bowls a bit attackingly, because if you would have seen Deepti Sharma, she was brave enough to flight the ball or bowl those loopy deliveries, invite the batters for a drive or make the batters think. So probably Rajeshwari can work on those skills, and I'm sure that she has in her repertoire because she's an experienced player. She has all the talent and one of the best left arm spinners that we have in India. So that could be one thinking point, and probably Renuka Singh Thakur if she can add up some change ups. I feel because right now she's exceptional with the new ball, but when it comes to the middle phase of the innings, when the ball tends to get a bit older, probably adding some variations could help for Renuka Singh Thakur, and she could be a potent weapon in the middle overs as well.
Certainly. And I saw this very interesting comment on social media that mentioned that, see, we lost the T20 series and it was quite disappointing, right? Because we could see how there were phases of play where India was being very conservative, just the dot balls were piling up. It was just singles here and there, fewer boundaries. So, do you think with the way the Indian team is shaping, we are much more suited for the longer format, say the 50-over game or the test, than, say, a slam bam game like T20s?
I think by the records, if you see yes, the answer would be yes, but there's always a scope for improvement, I feel. Because I think in Test cricket or in one day format also, you have that room to come back. But in T20s, if you see, there's absolutely no time for you to make a comeback. So if you're a bowler and going for runs, say in the first over, if you get 10 runs out of your over, then again, when you come into bowl, your second over, you're low on confidence. But and by the time you complete your spell, probably it is 4 overs 40 and no wickets in your armory. But in case of one days or test matches, the captain has the luxury of giving you specific spells. Probably after 1 or 2 overs, she'll stop you and probably call you when the wickets are down, and then she'll again introduce you. But in T20s, you don't get that room. So I think probably saying that India is not that suited to play T20 could be wrong. We of course have a good talent in our team. If you see the opening pair of Shefali Verma and Smriti Mandana, I think they can pose a danger to any bowling attack in the world. But again, the dot balls that we had in the T20s and the failure of the Indian batters to rotate the strike on a consistent basis or steal those quick signals. I think if we can improve on those abilities, we would be an altogether different team. And of course, if we concentrate more on our fielding also, because if you see in the T20 series, we had a few dropped catches. I think in the first T20, we had 3 to 4 dropped catches and they were quite easy catches. But when you are playing against a quality opposition like England, you cannot afford to drop any of the catches. So I think working on the fielding, strike rotation, trying to reduce the dot balls could be the things to look forward to when we play the limited overs format.
Definitely. I mean, these will be pointers that India will definitely want to keep in mind going forward. And England, right now, they've had such a horrid test, and they would be obviously hurting because they had a great T20 series, and then I think they might have had a similar expectation for the one-off test. So, what do you think are some of the learnings that England would want to take from this test match, and perhaps come back stronger?
Now, I think England for England, if they are touring any subcontinental nations like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, I think first and foremost, I think they'll have to work on the way they play spin, because if their batters would have been able to bat on day two properly and probably post at least 300 runs on the board, and I'm not expecting a 400 from them, but at least post 300, so that at least the chance of follow on is reduced, because in women's tests we have the gap of 150, unlike in men's we have 200. But at least if they could have gone closer to India's target, it would have done a world of good to the England batters. So first and foremost is probably playing more of quality spin. I know it is difficult in the England conditions, but they can make provisions. As they had done before coming to India, they went to Oman. They had a few sessions over there. They were there for a couple of weeks, I believe. But I think that did not work too well when they came to India. But playing proper spin, that could be one of the things to look forward to. And I think the fast bowlers, they did a good job, but I think Sophie Eccleston, she's coming up from an injury, so I think that is a cause of concern for them. That probably she's not her 100%. I feel she picked up 3 wickets in that innings, but what we know of Sophie Eccleston is to do something like what Deepti Sharma did for India: have a fifer in one of the innings, have a four-fer in the other innings. But Sophie Eccleston's injury could be a concern, and England team would hope that they get the most out of their best bowler in the team. And also Charlie Dean, if she can complement Sophie Eccleston well, because if these two bowlers, they bowl well in pair, if they hunt in pair, I feel they can pose damage to any team. And I think they have that quality. But England spinners and the England batters and their ability to play spin will be crucial. And I think these could be some of the takeaways for the England team after this India series.
Certainly. And we have an interesting question that's coming up on chat by Moinak. So he mentions here that it's great that, we have these players perform so well despite having very few first class matches, no domestic first class structure in place. So high time we increase women's first class cricket even worldwide. So Julie, what do you think about this? Do you think it's actually a feasible thing? Because we've seen how the men's cricket, men's domestic cricket circuit has, Ranji Trophy, you have Vijay Hazare and Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, but they right now struggle because of the presence of a league like IPL. They don't get enough coverage, and that's like a whole debate for another day. But do you think now that India is playing test matches so regularly, at least these one-off encounters are happening, somewhere we can have a proper domestic red ball tournament in place?
I think so. Right now, it's actually a good question that Mainak has asked over here, and it's a high time that we actually have more of women's first-class cricket. I'll talk about India and not about worldwide, because I don't have much knowledge about what happens across the world. But for India, I think what we used to have a few years back, now it has fairly improved, because earlier we did not have dedicated tournaments for under 15 girls But now we have started that. So we have tournaments at the under 15 level, then we have tournaments at under 19, under 23, and then the seniors. So the senior women, they play T20s also, they play the one day format also. But as he is rightly trying to point out, that we do not have multi day matches so far. Earlier, we used to have 2 day tournaments, but right now we do not have anything on those lines. So, probably adding a 2 day format could be the way to go forward. And if you compare it to the men's teams, women teams also, they have 36 teams in place at the domestic level. So, the number of teams are pretty much equal. Almost all of the states, they are participating at the domestic level. But if we increase the number of tournaments, that will be good. We have champions trophy in place, we also have the interzonals also. So if you compare it to a few years back, we definitely have more. But of course, there's a need to have some more tournaments, and especially I would again like to emphasize on this multi-day format tournaments that happen for women's cricket as well. Because if you are expecting the women cricketers to do well in the test format, they need to play multi-day games as well before they actually play an international test match. So before the India England match, they had a camp in Bangalore. These Indian team girls who were proud of the Indian team, they had a match like India versus India A, think, and they had a good 4 day match. So I think that was some experience that the Indian girls got before this test match. But again, imagine if with that single match, this is the performance that we are getting at the test level. Imagine what will be the performance when you have a proper dedicated tournament that has, like a 3 day or a 4 day tournament. So I think it would work wonders for the Indian team.
And just adding on your point, I believe there was a multi-format tournament, like I think in 2016, 17, 18
Hmm.
time, but it was scrapped off because of like viewership and like logistics concern and, cramping it up with the already, busy schedule. So do you somewhere also think that, they can incorporate a tournament of this nature, if at least like a full-fledged thing like Ranji Trophy? And maybe this is again a very hypothetical scenario of incorporating some like foreign players as well. Like we've seen how the county cricket, like in England, they invite players from across the world to like join them for that certain contract basis time. So to just spice up things in our circuit, do you think, you know, like an MOU can be signed with, say, an ECB or a CA to invite some of their players to come play here, get used to how tests are played out, and that would probably also help with the viewership?
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, the viewership should not be a concern if you are looking at the domestic matches, because I think apart from the knockouts that even the men play at the Vijay Hazare level or at the Ranji Trophy level, also these matches are not broadcast. So I don't think viewership should be any concern. But I like your idea of including the foreign players and inviting them to be a part of the domestic tournaments that happen in India. That could definitely spice up and probably encourage more and more fans to come to the stadiums and just watch probably the best cricket that they can see in the women's game. So that could be an idea, and I think probably, as you pointed out, that few years back we did have multi-day games, but for some reason they were scrapped. But I think this test win, I think it would definitely encourage BCCI to look forward and probably introduce it again. Because if you do not have such tournaments, you cannot expect the Indian team to do well. Again, repeating the same thing which I said earlier, but it is high time that we have multi-day games, and I think we have enough players who can play this multi-day format. It is not like we have just the players who are cut to play T20s or one dayers. In this test match, we saw we have players who can bat for 100 overs also. So that is a very positive sign for the Indian cricket, because otherwise, if you see, probably people will comment that 4 day is also too much for women's game. But I think after this success, the Indian team has shown that women's test cricket is ready for a 4 or even a 5 day game.
And again, elaborating on a point you brought in about the viewership, I think it's very important because we've seen how cricket is mostly, like governed by the economic side of things. You need to get those sponsorships, you need to have a viewership. Otherwise, it just end up becoming very redundant. I mean, the purists in us would obviously want, the game to survive just because we are passionate about it. But because administrators look at it from an economic perspective, that becomes a problem. Now, I believe you were also, in the stadium witnessing the match live, and you mentioned, how the crowds weren't that much. So do you think there can actually be initiatives to encourage people to come to the stadium and watch these longer format matches, because that's how you get people interested and invested, and eventually once you start seeing the crowds coming in, perhaps it can, like, expand into like a 5 day thing?
Absolutely. I think there needs to be more and more awareness created about the women's game. I feel the kind of branding or the marketing that is done for the men's game, if something similar could be done for the women's game, I think automatically the people will come and watch because, yeah, I think even if you ask some of your other friends who are not following cricket, leave alone women's cricket, but they wouldn't be aware that today India registered a historic win against England in the test matches. So I think more and more awareness needs to be created, and probably once the awareness is there, people would definitely flock to the stadiums. They'll watch the match because test match, of course, being played on weekdays, Thursday, Friday, there was no crowd at all. Saturday, but almost the result was decided, so I don't think many people would have visited DY Patil Stadium today. But the T20s, which were played at the Wankhede Stadium early this month, I think tremendous crowds were there. I think around the second T20, I saw about 22,000 people. That was played on a Saturday and Sunday. I think close to 30,000 people were there at Wankhede Stadium. So that goes to show that probably people are more enjoying the shorter format of the game. But the purists or the connoisseurs of the game, I think they would definitely love to watch women's test matches. Also, given the fact that they rarely play test matches, so people will be all the more interested to see how the women play the longer format of the game as well.
Certainly, and again, I think Moinak brings in a brilliant point, something that we had also actually deliberated upon in our earlier streams. That he's seen our analysis a couple of days back, and he believes why can't we have a World Test Championship for the women's game? Now, five teams, play these tests, and we can have like two match series against each other. That would certainly, again, be really remarkable to see. So, Julie, do you also think that bringing in this World Test Championship will spice up things? We'll have a lot more value to these multi-format series instead of just these one-off encounters. Although it is a welcome step in the right direction, having a proper full-fledged, like even two-match, three-match series will help.
I think the first step for the boards and the ICC should be that if there are any bilateral series being played, ensure that they are multi-format in nature. Probably you start off with T20s, then you bring in the one dayers, and then you play the test match. But again, when you play the test match, it should not be termed as a one-off test match. You should at least have two test matches so that there is chance for either of the teams who ends up on the losing side in the first match, they have the chance to make a comeback or put up a stronger fight in the second test match. So similarly, if you look at the India England, England lost quite badly, we can say, in this test match, but I'm sure that if there would have been a second test, probably England could have been able to draw the match or probably even win the game. So I think that chance you need to give to every team, and think that should be the first step. That introduce multi-format series when you are playing any bilaterals, and when that thing becomes a grand success, probably then you look at WTC World Test Championship. So for me, WTC is a long shot, I think, in women's game. But if more and more people like Moinik, I think we have here, if they want to have WTC, I think probably somewhere down the line the boards and the ICC will take a look into it, because I remember that I think few years back there were a few fans in one of the stadiums. They were probably hinting at when will we have women's IPL, and see, early this year we had one. So I think it will take time. It will surely happen, but it will definitely take time.
Agreed. And, I was just going to bring in this point of, how the Women's Premier League was something all of us fans wanted for such a long time. It finally happened. So here's keeping our fingers crossed to ensure, a World Test Championship also happens, because you get to see teams besides the big three also, square off against each other. And that would be a sight to behold in itself. And again, looking at another discourse from this match, now we saw how a 4 day match like wrapped up in 3 days. In fact, 2.5 days, let's call it half, because we didn't last the entire day. So, do you think a test match like this, would kind of support the argument of people who believe that it should just be a 4 day test and not a 5 day thing? And do you think it kind of just added more fuel to that discussion?
I don't think that would have added fuel to that kind of a discussion, because I think in the recent past we have also seen when the teams tour to India and they play men's test matches, we have also been able, the Indian men's cricket team has also been able to get a result in 2.5 or 3 days. And vice versa also happens when unfortunately we have been at the receiving end when we travel overseas. So I don't think that the result of the match, whenever that happens, should determine how long should be the test match. But I think with probably those who have been in this management, I think with some thought they must have put forward that the women can play for 4 days. But I think if you look at 4 days, you have to bowl 100 overs in that one particular day, whereas the men's team, they have to bowl 90 overs in one day. So I think they're trying to compensate it somehow by the number of overs. The difference in the overs is of course 50, because 450 overs are bowled in men's cricket, 400 in the women's test. So overwise, there's a lot of difference. Day wise, also we have 1 day difference, but I don't think that this result will determine anything. So I think for a brief period, I think we'll have 4 day test matches only for women's game. But let's see if Australia, England, they push for 5 day test matches. Probably we could see India also playing a 5 day test match someday or the other.
Exactly. I mean, if this test has given us any hope that, test cricket can actually be exciting, we will get to see more result oriented matches and, that push for a 5 day encounter as well. And after fielding some very difficult questions to you, what are your expectations and, basic thoughts for the India versus Australia test that's starting in less than 5 days? It's a packed season. Imagine, having two test matches in a span of 15 days is something us fans, obviously love. So, what are your expectations?
Absolutely. I think like us, like you and me, Neha, and of course the fans who are watching this show, I think Smriti Mandana also in one of the pre-match press conferences, she said that she's very excited to play two test matches in a gap of say 10 days. So players are also excited because they love to play in the whites and they do not get too many chances to play the longest format of the game. And when they do get any chance, they are very excited to play their best cricket, because they also know that even if they have an off session or an off few overs, they always have the time to make a comeback and put up their best performances. So players are excited, we are excited, and why not? We can hope that just like how we annihilated England, we are able to annihilate Australia as well, because I think that will be like a dream come true, not only for the players but also for the fans. The two champion teams that we have in international women's cricket, if you are being, able to defeat these two sides, I think that will be exceptional. Because after the test match against Australia, we play the one day series and then the T20 series. So if we start on a winning note, I think we'll be able to dominate in the one days and the T20s as well. So all the best to the Indian team and hope they have a good one against Australia too.
Certainly, and I think if we win that one-off test, it'll be like a watershed moment in our Test cricket history, right? Winning against two mammoth giants in this game is certainly going to, boost our morale and set us up well for that series, right? You're looking at an ODI and T20 series that follows. So yeah, exciting times and a lot of cricket for us fans. And as we reach the end of our discussion, do you have any final thoughts, Julie?
No, just very happy with the kind of performance the Indian team showed over the last 3 days, 2.5 days rather, we can say, 14th, 15th of December, and the first session of 16th. Huge win of 347 runs against England. Exceptional, I think, with the bat, with the ball, and you couldn't have asked for anything more to conclude this series. Of course, many takeaways. If you look at the T20 format, I think there will be plenty of takeaways for the Indian team, and we just hope that they bounce back stronger when they take on Australia.
Certainly, keeping that momentum will be important. And this team has time and again proven, that they win our hearts with performances like this. So, yeah, that does conclude our discussion. Thank you so much, Julie, for once again, joining me on the show today for the third day in the row and discussing and bringing up such lovely insights. And thanks to all of our fans and viewers who joined us and asked those lovely questions. We hope to see you in a lot of our live shows. So yeah, don't forget to check out Never in the Back Foot on Instagram, on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube as well. We are a growing platform, and discussions like these, really will keep the channel going. So yeah, thank you for sticking around, and see you in more live shows. Really, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.